here. We love seeing all you guys here. We're really excited to come together and worship this morning. So if you guys wouldn't mind standing and joining us as we sing a little bit. If you're out in the lobby, feel free to join us. Come in here as we kick this morning off by singing a little bit. Come and stand before your Maker, full of wonder, full of fear. Come behold his power and glory, and with confidence draw near. For the one who holds the heavens and commands the stars above is the one who bends to bless us with an unrelenting love. Rejoice, come and lift your hands and raise your voice. He is worthy of all praise. Rejoice, sing the mercies of your King, and with trembling rejoice. We are children of the promise, the beloved of the Lord, bought with sacrificial promise, but with everlasting love. To a world that longs to know the affections of a Father who will never let them go. Rejoice, come and lift your hands and raise your voice. He is worthy of all praise. Rejoice, sing the mercies of your King, and with trembling rejoice. All our sickness, all our sorrow, Jesus carried up a hill. He has walked this path before us. He is walking with us still, turning tragedy to triumph, turning agony to praise. There is blessing in the battle, so take heart and stand amazed. Rejoice, come and lift your hands and raise your voice. He is worthy of all praise. Rejoice, sing the mercies of your King, and with trembling rejoice. When you cry to him, he hears your voice. He will tend away your tears. Rejoice, he will end your suffering, and with trembling rejoice. We're going to sing one more. Thanks again, guys, for being here with us. If you're out in the lobby, again, feel free to come in and sing with us. This is the word, the gospel truth in which we stand. The perfect life, the saving death of just one man. Oh, oh, look what God has done. Oh, oh, through his Son, Christ died for our sin. Met death in his grave, rose to life. We are saved. By this we are saved. So Jesus' death has conquered death. It killed our sin. In Jesus' life has brought us life. We live in him. Oh, oh, look what God has done. Oh, through his Son, Christ died for our sin, met death in his grave, rose to life again. By this we are saved. By this we are saved. This is good news. The Father shows us praise. This is the truth. The Spirit gives us faith. Jesus is here, and by this we are saved. By this we are saved. By this we are saved. Christ died for our sin, met death in his grave, rose to life again. By this we are saved. Christ died. Christ died for our sin, met death in his grave, rose to life again. By this we are saved. By this we are saved. Well, again, welcome this morning, guys. You can take a seat. We're actually going to have Logan come up and share a little bit with us.
Good morning, everyone. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien. ¿Y tú? Sí, sí. I just got back from Mexico on a cruise. So I was speaking English there, right? Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to Cornerstone. If this is your first time here, a special welcome to you. Thank you for joining us for worship today. There's a couple ways we would love to connect with you and just welcome you to the church. The first is there is a card on the seat back in front of you, Connect card. It's got a little blue on top. Rob's holding it up. If you could fill that out and drop that in the offering basket on the at the end of service, we'd love to give you a call, shoot you an email, just welcome you to the Cornerstone. Also, outside the main entrance of the church, there was a welcome booth. You may have saw it on your way in. There will be someone there after service to answer any questions you may have of the church. Also, crazy 21st century stuff here. You could fill out the Connect card on our app, which is really cool. If you guys don't know, we have a church app now. It's a Cornerstone Manhattan Beach, right, Jason? Getting the nod. Cornerstone Manhattan Beach. You search it on Apple Store or the whatever the other one is. I keep forgetting. Jason will be mad at me for that one. But no matter what kind of phone you have, it's on your store thing. So if you guys want to download, that's great. You can get notes on there. You can get all of our announcements and stuff that's coming up. All that fun stuff as well. Hey, if you are a lady in the room, where are my ladies at? Thank you, Sam. So this summer, we don't have women's Bible study. They kind of take a break, but there is another option for you guys to stay involved, and that is Women's Summer Book Club. I know that you guys do this every summer, and it seems like it's a great opportunity to connect with some ladies and read a good book. So this year they're reading Hope Heals by Catherine Wolfe. So you can join our ladies on in the morning or the evening. Starting June 13th, and childcare is provided for the morning sessions. The books are $13 each. You can sign up in the back. Also, if you have any questions, there'll be someone in the back after service as well to answer them. You guys have heard Sam talking for a while now about marriage mentoring. That's been a real focus the past couple weeks. We just did a marriage series, and this is marriage mentoring. Marriage mentoring is for all ages, not just for young couples. It's for any married couple who would like to really focus in and improve their marriage. Not that it's even bad to start with, but that, hey, we can make our marriage even better. Meet with a couple who's been doing marriage for a little longer than you, who's got some experience in it. So today is actually the last day to sign up on our website or our app. You can do it there as well. But if you want to sign up, it starts coming up soon. 12 sessions, 1 to 2 sessions a month, and the cost is $35 per couple. Really great opportunity, but make sure you sign up today if you are interested in doing that. VBS is coming up soon. Let me get a woo woo for VBS. Woo woo woo. VBS, June 25th through 29th. VBS is an awesome time. I still have the song from last year's VBS stuck in my head, and it's great. So if you want to have a song stuck in your head all year, come to VBS. So it is an awesome time. This year VBS is June 25th, 29th, from 9 a.m. to 12 every day. And it will be open from kids starting at 4 years old, going all the way up to going into the 6th grade. So if they're in 5th grade, going into 6th grade, they're welcome to come. Your child or your friends, anyone can come and sign up. It doesn't have to be only people from the church. So you're welcome to invite your friends with their kids to come. It's a great opportunity. You can sign up online, but registration is a limited basis, first come, first serve kind of thing. So make sure you sign up soon, like right after service or during Sam's message maybe. But registration is limited, so make sure you do that first. Also, if you guys don't know, VBS is awesome, but it does take a lot of work for us to pull it off and do it well. So we do need volunteers for that. We just need a lot of people just to do different jobs. Whether you're like, hey, I love kids and I want to hang out with them all day, boom, we got a job for you. Whether you're like, I hate kids and I just don't want to be around them, hey, we got a job for you too. So wherever you're at, we would just love to have you there to support us. It's also just a great fun time to pour in the lives of kids and help us put together just a really great event to support our child ministry here at the church. Finally, I don't know if you guys know this, but May is Foster Care Awareness Month, and today we have a very great opportunity to hear about that and hear from Ariel from Foster All. Who's going to tell us a little bit about her organization. So come on up, Ariel.
Thank you, everyone. Well, good morning. As Logan mentioned, my name is Ariel, and I'm with Foster All, and we are actually a nonprofit organization that partners with churches to establish foster care programs, and most importantly, to find temporary loving homes for kids that are in need. As Logan mentioned, it is Foster Awareness. May is Foster Awareness Month, so thank you so much for letting me come here and share with you guys. I'd love to share a little bit more about my story, if that's okay. My husband and I have a heart for working with orphans internationally, and it really broke our hearts to see that kids were sick, in the streets, barefoot, walking around dirty, with nothing and no one, and that really motivated us to get involved with this cause wherever we go. We just weren't really aware of how great the need was back home. So I soon found out that there were many orphans in my own community that were also needing a loving home. Currently in LA County, we have a foster care crisis right now. There's over 25,000 kids in care just in our county alone, and that's actually the highest population of foster children in the nation, which means there's thousands right here in our backyard that we probably aren't aware of. I know, at least for me, I wasn't. Once we heard that need, my husband and I decided to get involved with a temporary foster care-like situation with our church, and we've had two-year-old boys so far, and it's been crazy and wonderful, and we weren't really sure how we'd be able to impact these kids during the short amount of time that we've had them, but just being able to provide them a safe and loving home while they're going through stress and crisis and trauma, and really seeing them grow and flourish through that experience has made it all worth it to us. We all have probably heard stories of kids that are taken from their home and put into care because of abuse or neglect. They're scared, they're sad, angry, hopeless, and they need somebody to step in and assure them that everything's going to be okay. If they don't find this right away, they'll continue to bounce around in care for an average of 7 to 8 times until some kind of permanency is found. Now, when I heard this, I really wanted to get involved. I wanted to meet that need and restore that hope for a child, because the sad consequence of not finding that stability early on is that many of these kids will end up in prison, trafficked, homeless, and gangs, on drugs and more. But I believe that we as the church have the ability to change that destiny for a foster child. I read a quote the other day that said, "Every kid is one caring adult away from being a success story." And that's so true for any child, but especially important for kids in foster care, because they're really needing identity and they're needing to be called loved and wanted by somebody. Let me backtrack a little bit. So what is foster care exactly? Well, you have a perfect example of what that could look like through your pastor, but children enter foster care when they need to be temporarily or permanently removed from their home for their own safety. The goals while these children are in care are always to go back to their parents, but if this is impossible, then the next goal becomes adoption or guardianship. There is a monthly stipend that's provided to help cover expenses, and it's just a great opportunity to be a mentor and help bring hope to a broken family. Also, if your heart is to adopt, Doesn't have to be expensive because all legal costs are covered through foster adoption. You might be wondering how you can help. Well, this is actually where Foster All comes in. We are your guide through the fostering process. Our goal is really to set you up for success in that. It can be overwhelming and confusing, but we provide you with all the information that you need about fostering and navigating the system. We even can help equip your church to provide even more support for you, because we think that the church can be a big part of the solution to the foster crisis. We just need your help and a willing heart. Many people think that you have to be married, you have to own a home, be wealthy to foster, but that's not true. You just need to be willing. On the flip side, we also understand that not everyone can foster, and that's totally okay. Everyone can, however, do something to help a child in care. So we partner with your church to put on activities throughout the year to serve the foster community. Some of these simple activities include donation drives, maybe delivering a meal or a welcome gift to a family that just received a new child. Welcome gifts are so important because typically kids will arrive at a new home with little to nothing, maybe a few things in a garbage bag if they have any. So if we can meet that tangible need a child has, as well as support and love and encourage a family going through foster care, it would make a world of difference in the foster community. We also work with churches to do foster parents night out events, and more recently have started connecting our church partners with group homes. So these are just a few of the ways the church can get involved, but there is a serve opportunity for everyone here. And these activities are so important because it helps break down the stigma we have of fostering and foster kids, so that maybe one day we will want to foster, or at least we'll be able to educate someone else about the foster crisis. So in closing, if you have a heart to get involved in any way, I'd love to meet with you, answer any questions you have. I have a little table I'm sure you saw at the entrance or exit at the end of service, so I'd love to talk with you if you want to get involved, whether that's through volunteering or fostering. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing, Ariel. It's such a powerful thing. I know Sam in his message is going to get into anger and different things, but we are talking about for a second, righteous anger, and I know seeing the foster care system, something that man, it's something that we can be man, it gets me riled up about it. And I think when you guys see it and just see the need that's there, it should be something that, man, we feel for and we want to be helpful for. And so I know not everyone can be hey, I'm going to foster adopt tomorrow, but there is really a way for you guys to help and be a part of just the solution for this crisis in our community and the people around us. And so please talk to Ariel. She's at a table right outside, and she's very friendly, she's not going to be crazy about you. So, but just go and talk to her afterwards and see what way you could possibly get involved. Whether it's, hey, I'm just going to get a gift basket together, or I'm looking to what foster adoption looks like, or anywhere in the middle. Just you guys know there's a need here. I know you guys have experienced that, maybe through the Boone's kids. You guys have seen that need, and so this is a way that you guys can really step in and be involved there. One of our other values here at Cornerstone is community, and we really value that. Every single week we take time together during service, not just to say hi, but to really greet one another and welcome each other to the church, and take some time to maybe meet someone new and welcome them into our church as well. So if you guys will stand up and greet someone around you, welcome them to Cornerstone today.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call you guys back. I know we talk a lot in this church about how community is one of our biggest values. Another one of our biggest values is, you guessed it, worship. So we're going to call you guys back, and we're going to sing a little bit more. Again, thank you guys for joining us this morning. You have searched me, you know my heart. Before I spoke, you knew my every thought. The wonder of your knowledge is far too high for me to understand. You knew I'd leave your side and cower in the cover of the night. But there's no place I could hide from the mercy of your light. Your kindness leads me to repentance. Your grace assures me to trust in you. I could climb up into the sky, dive down deep where darkest evil lies. I'll never find a place to flee. Your presence is always where I am. You never leave my side. Even when I fight to get my way, you patiently disarm my defenses with your grace. Your kindness leads me to repentance. Your grace assures me to trust in you. Faithful Savior, you restore me. My life is yours, I belong to you. Search my heart and examine my thoughts. Shine your light, I can't hide in the dark. Give me faith to respond when you call. Search my heart. Your kindness leads me to repentance. Your grace assures me to trust in you. Faithful Savior, you restore me. My life is yours, I belong to you. God, we thank you so much that you know us the way you do, God, that you go out of your way to get to know us, to get to know our hearts. God, I pray that as we come to know you better and come to understand ourselves better as a result, that we would continue to grow in our love of you. The same way, the more you know us, the more you love. God, I want to thank you for Sam this morning, what he's been working through this week. I know it's kind of a challenging subject matter this week, God. I pray that as a community of believers, we would be convicted and challenged, but also inspired and uplifted by what he shares with us today. God, I just thank you for all the people here this morning that are gathered here to hear from you and to hear your word. In your holy name, amen.
My I not on? Yep, there I am. Okay. Well, our middle school and high school students are heading downstairs with Logan, and we're starting a new series today. And it is called The Good Kind of Weird. A Good Kind of Weird. We're looking at the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And Jesus really talks about, here's what it looks like to be someone who follows Christ. Here's what it looks like to be a true Christian. And it's, as Christians, we're called to be different, to look different, to act different, to respond differently. That Jesus calls us Christians to be unique and different, and maybe even weird. That the world would look at us and say, "Wow, there's something different about them," in a good way, a good kind of different. Right? We all know the weird kind of different, right? We all know people who have acted weird, who do weird things in the name of Jesus, in the name of God, right? There's a guy on my drive home, and every once in a while, he's not there every day, but every once in a while I see him, and on my drive home, and he's got this sandwich board that he wears with all this scripture on it, and he's got a megaphone. He stands in the median, like right where the cars are coming by, kind of like a panhandler, and he's got this megaphone, just goes, and he's got this little puppet thing on his shoulder, which I'm not sure what the deal with that is. And he just kind of, and I haven't quite found out his message, but let me say it's not attractive. I don't look at that guy and say, "Oh man, I really need Jesus." I don't think anyone's driven by there and said, "Oh, that guy, he had a puppet thing on his shoulder," and that just makes me, like, I just realized when I saw the puppet that I need Jesus, right? It's just kind of weird. When Stacy and I were doing middle school, I was a youth pastor for about 10 years, and I remember there was this one girl in particular, and Stacy was talking to her, because our girls at that time were probably like maybe 5 and 3, and she talks to this girl, and she says, "Yeah, we've been watching like a Disney princess movie." And the girl says, "We don't watch Disney movies at our house, because whenever my mom watches a Disney movie, she has to get up and go to the bathroom and throw up because it makes her so sick." I'm like, "It's Disney." I'm like, what's going on? What kind of messaging is coming from home? Right? Yeah, Esther's like, "Yes, thank you." Right? That's weird. That's not a good kind of weird. That's a bad kind of weird. Right? There was a boy who came to our youth group, and very first time he shows up, no joke, very first time, him and his mom show up, she drops him off. Other than them being dressed in their 1970s clothing, and it's 2005, and not like retro 1970s, but kind of like, he steps in, and I'm not joking, in the first 5 minutes, he sets up a table and puts all this literature out about like, creation, and how, it's creation, not evolution, about abortion, and about don't immunize your kids. I'm like, he's 12. I'm like, what in the world? I told him, I said, "Actually, I'm not going to have you hand this stuff out." I was like, that's weird. 12-year-old kids aren't supposed to show up at youth group and start handing out literature to other kids. And the more I got to know this kid, this family, I couldn't have a conversation with them without it being overly religious. I'm like, can't we just talk like, hey, football, or like, everything had spiritual, like religious overtones. And the more I got to know them over like probably 7 or 8 years, I came to realize like, this was one of the most dysfunctional families I have ever encountered. They had this air of spirituality, but as you get beneath, you see, wow, they are just, it was one of the most dysfunctional, messy families. I could talk to you for 30 minutes about, and I'm not going to. I'll talk to you about other stuff for 30 minutes. But right, we've all experienced the bad kind of weird. But as we look at the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus calls us to be different, to be unique, to stand out, to look different, but in a good way. He tells us in Matthew 5, verse 16, he says, "You're the light of the world, and let your light shine before other men, that they would see your good deeds and that they would praise your Father in heaven." Right? This is the thing, that they would see how different you are, and it would be attractive, it would be good, it would draw them into God. Because the world doesn't need more weird people in a bad way. It doesn't need more Christians who are weird in the bad kind of weird, but really good kind of weird Christians. Christians that would look at them and say, "Wow, I want that. I desire that." In Jesus' time, he had people around him who were religious, who were super religious, hyper religious, and they were different. They were unique. People looked at them, but it wasn't that kind of different that was attractive. The Pharisees, the religious leaders, Jesus, in Matthew 5, verse 20, it's going to be on the screen. It says this. Jesus says this, I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. He says, unless you're more righteous than the Pharisees, because the Pharisees, here's what they did. They were very religious on the outside. They did all the right things. They said all the spiritual things, but underneath they were empty. When they ran into people who were broken, people who were messy, people who needed God's love, they just trashed them and said, why don't you be more like me? And Jesus is saying, look, if you want to be spiritual, if you truly want to be different, if you want to be the good kind of weird, your righteousness needs to surpass the Pharisees, because theirs was all about the outward appearance. And what he's saying is that true righteousness starts in the heart. So I'm just giving you a quick intro. We're going to talk about anger today, but I want to give you a quick intro to this Sermon on the Mount. What he's talking about is, as Christians, we're called to live different, the good kind of different, that people would look at us and say, I want that, I desire that. That is interesting, that's intriguing. That makes me want to know God, want to love God, want to follow God. In fact, the first thing you're going to notice is this. The good kind of weird, it starts in the heart. Right? Living differently and being someone who follows Christ, it starts in the heart. It doesn't start with our actions and just being good externally. It starts inwardly. It starts on the inside. And this is what Jesus did. Right? Jesus internally, he was different. And he was so attractive. People looked at him and said, I want that. I desire that. I want to be with him. People who were outcasts, people who were immoral, people who no one else, who had kind of shunned or had, I guess, stepped away from religion, said, I desire to be with Jesus. I want to hang out with him. I want to talk with him. I want to spend time with him. So, kind of just a preface to what we're going into. So if you have your Bibles, open to Matthew 5, and we're going to look at this idea of anger. What does it mean? What does it mean to be a Christian? To look differently, to act differently, to respond differently when it comes to this topic of anger. If we want to be attractive to the world around us, that good kind of weird, that people say, I want that, then how do we respond when it comes to anger? So, Matthew chapter 5, you can, if you have your app, it's right there. If you have your Bible, it's there. It's also on the screen. Matthew 5, I'm going to start in verse 21. We're looking at this idea of anger. And he says this. So this is Jesus speaking. And he's going to talk about what it means to really live and act and respond differently as a follower of Jesus. It says, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. Now that's true, right? The Bible tells us, do not murder. It's actually one of the 10 commandments, don't commit murder. But Jesus goes a little bit deeper. He says, but I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, raka, which kind of means like, you dumbhead, it's insulting their intelligence, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, which means to kind of attack their character, will be in danger of the fire of hell. So Jesus starts here. He says, you've all heard, don't murder. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't think there's a single person in this room who's going to be like, yeah, that seems like it's okay, right? We would all agree, murder's bad, murder's wrong. People who are Christians, people who are not, people who follow God, people who don't, would say, yeah, murder's a bad thing. Jesus is like, but here's what I'm going to tell you. To truly follow God, it's not just murder, but it's anger. He says, if you're angry, you're going to be in judgment. And if you say, you insult someone, you say something evil to someone, well, you're going to be in danger of the fire of hell. Jesus takes anger really seriously. And the reason that Jesus takes it so seriously is because anger really is a form of murder. This is what Jesus is saying. Anger is a form of murder. Because murder, what we do is we want to destroy someone. When we murder someone, I want to destroy them. I want to take their life. Anger, saying something wicked or evil to someone, is we're trying to destroy them. That's the goal. I want to destroy that person. I want to destroy their reputation. I want to insult them. I want to destroy their value of themselves. I want to make them hurt. I want to give them pain. I want to make them suffer. Right? This is what anger does. This is what anger does to us. Now, we're going to talk about this in a second, but let me just jump in with this idea of anger. And Logan talked about it for a second right after Ariel spoke. And there is a form of anger that's righteous and that's good. When we hear things about the shooting that happened in Texas, that should bring anger to us. The shooting that happened in school, we should be angry about, why does that kind of injustice happen to kids who go to school? When we hear about there's 25,000 kids in foster care in LA County alone, we should be angry about that. When we hear about parents who abuse their kids, and that should make us angry. When we hear about human trafficking, we should be angry. There's things that should make us angry because they're unjust. There's unrighteousness. And when we have that kind of anger, that is God's kind of anger. In fact, the Bible tells us that God actually gets angry. Ephesians 4:26 tells us, be angry and don't sin. There's a possibility to be angry and not sin. Right? So it's not talking about that righteous anger. That's a good kind of godly anger. I'm angry because there's unrighteousness. There's injustice. However, most of our anger is not like that, right? Would you agree? Most of the times you get angry, it's not because, there's so much injustice. It's because, you know what? You offended me. You hurt my feelings. You made me mad, and now I'm angry. You said something that bothered me. You cut me off in traffic, and I was going 55 miles. I was going, maybe 55 is 85. I was going 85 miles an hour, and you cut, right? I'm like, we get angry because someone is getting in our way of what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. Usually, right? That's usually where our anger comes from. It's about our own selfishness. And let me say this, the next thing in your notes is this. When we are angry, we commit murder in our heart, our mind, and our mouth. I want to explain that a little bit. When we are angry, we commit murder in our heart, our mind, and mouth. Because what we said is that anger really is a form of murder. Murder is saying, I want to destroy someone. And we are angry. What we're saying is, I want to destroy this person. Whether it makes me so angry that I want to physically hurt them, whether it makes me angry enough that I want to say something that hurts them, whether I just want to, the way I think or my feelings, there's all this stuff inside me. I'm like, oh. Whether I do something or not, I just want to strangle them. Right? We all have those feelings that come up inside. And really murder, anger is a form of murder. So when we're angry, we murder people with our heart, with our mind, with our mouth. Let me explain that a little bit. So in our heart, right, it's this idea that in my heart, I find joy. Have you ever done this, found joy in someone's pain or someone's suffering? Someone that you just don't like, and you hear, they lost their job, right? Or you hear about they broke their leg or they went bankrupt or whatever, and you're like, yes. And there's a deep sense of satisfaction. Or maybe it's you hear gossip, someone comes and tells you something bad about that person, and you're just like, oh. Right? I mean, we've all done that, right? And it feels so good to hear about someone else and their misfortune because we're so angry with them that we're actually murdering them in our heart. And in our heart, we're saying, I'm taking so much joy in their destruction. Right? What about in our mind? Right? When we think about over and over and over again the offense, how they offended me and what they did to me. Have you ever noticed that when you get in an argument with someone or someone's hurt your feelings, like you give yourself like the benefit of the doubt. I came home and I yelled at everyone, but I had a really hard day. And I give myself excuse. They came home and yelled at me, and they're an evil, vile person because they just wanted to hurt me. Right? When we play that over and over in our mind, or have you ever had these conversations where you have this talk, this dialogue in your mind? Well, next time they come up and they say something to me, well, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say that. And you go through this whole dialogue and conversation of how you're going to just verbally just destroy them and how you're going to make them, be so ashamed of themselves, and you're just going to destroy this person, right? We've done that, right? And the anger, we're murdering them in our mind, because what it is I want to destroy that person. Or with our mouth. We murder them with our mouth. And when we just say things that are just hurtful and painful and vile, whether we say it to their face or whether we gossip behind their back. I've heard people say this about gossip. It's not gossip if it's true. That's false, by the way. Right? People, well, if it's true, it's not gossip. No, it's still gossip. Right? We say something behind someone's back, or we say it to their face. And we want to destroy them. We want them to feel our wrath because they hurt me. What they said to me stung, so I'm going to say something back to them, and I want them to feel the same way that I feel. And let me say that the closer and more intimate the relationship, probably like within our families, are the people that we hurt the most with our anger. Because the closer you are, the more intimate and deep those relationships are. And they've trusted you. You've seen the very best about them, the very worst about them. You know all the intimate details of life. You know how to crush them. Right? If you're married or you have kids or your parents, like people that you spend a lot of time with, you can say those words and that will just crush them like that. Because we exploit their trust. They've trusted me with this deep relationship, and now I'm going to use it and flip it on them. Right? We could really destroy people with our words. And when we get angry and we say those sorts of things, we get angry and we say those sorts of things to people, we're destroying them. Now, let me say, it's better to murder someone with your mind than to murder them physically. Like, can we all agree on that? I would rather be angry with someone than actually go out and kill. Oh, Sam said it's fine, so I'm going to go kill someone. It's the same. It's not. But it's all sin. It's all destruction of a person. You're trying to destroy someone. And the big deal about it is this. Our anger destroys others who are made in the image of God. The next thing you'll notice is this. Our anger destroys others made in the image of God. And this is why it's such a big deal. This is why anger is a big deal, especially anger toward another person. It's because we're destroying someone else who's made in the image of God. Genesis chapter 1 tells us that we are created in the image of God. And what that is, that's like, I'm not going into the whole thing of it, but just say, being created in the image of God, it's not necessarily physically the way we look, but it's something about our character and who we are as people. Whether you are a tiny baby, whether you are a grown adult, you're created in the image of God. Whether you are a Nobel Peace Prize winner or you are mentally disabled, you're both created in the image of God, not one more than the other. It's about who we are as people. There's something within us. This is why it's such a big deal, right? Well, I can kill a cow and eat meat. But to kill a person who has been created in the image of God, that is a vile thing. God says nowhere else in Scripture is anything else created in the image of God. No animals, no cows, no plants, nothing else. Just human beings. We are created in the image of God. And when we destroy them, God takes that seriously. Genesis chapter 9, I'll read this real. It says, don't murder. Whoever sheds human blood, botching this. Whoever sheds human blood, by human shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind. Right? That murder is a detestable thing because we are created in God's image. And whether that's murder with our words, in our heart, in our mind. When we get angry, we destroy people. So, how do we, what do we do about this? He's going to go on to the rest of the passage. So Jesus kind of says, look, it's not just murder, anger, and using our word, those are forms of murder also. And he jumps into verse 23 and says this. Therefore, because anger is so destructive, because it's so powerful, because it can ruin and take over people's lives, because it has the powerful ability to destroy people who are created in the image of God. Therefore, if you're offering your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. It says, therefore, if you're going to worship service, if you're going to church, and you remember that you've offended someone, that there's conflict that hasn't been resolved between you and someone else, go do it quickly, even before you worship God. Because it's that important. And then he kind of gives an example, an illustration about how important it is. And he goes on to say this. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you still are together on your way. Or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you'll be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you pay the last penny. He says, look, do it quickly, because once judgment comes, it's over. And so he's like, restore relationships quickly with each other. The next thing is this, in your notes, right? Resolve conflict quickly. So what do we do with this about anger? Is we are called to resolve conflict quickly. Conflict's part of life. Conflict will arise. It doesn't matter who you are. Conflict is actually, it's an okay thing. It's a healthy thing. It's how we respond to it. Right? When you are angry with someone, you have offended someone, resolve it quickly. When we don't resolve conflict with another person, it impacts our relationship with God. When I have unresolved conflict, it can eat away at me. Right? If there's bitterness, if there's anger towards someone else, it can just destroy your life. And you're eaten up by all this anger and this hatred, and maybe the person doesn't even know, but it's in your mind over and over and over, and it's in your heart, and you're just so frustrated. I would tell you, there's been times in my life where there's been anger toward people, and I go to pray. And I go to pray to God, and all I can think about is all this frustration that's in my life. It impacts our relationship with God. It impacts our relationship with others. He tells us to resolve conflict quickly. Don't let that anger build up into bitterness. Because when it does, it destroys us. It devours us. Not only does it hurt the other person, it hurts us as well. It says resolve it quickly. And one of the things that I think we need to do as Christians is we need to make forgiveness and confession regular parts of our life. Right? We need to make forgiveness and confession regular parts of our life. If I have done something to offend someone else, I should confess that. I should forgive them. I need to do those things in our relationships. We need to make that a part of our life. However, we don't like to confess and we don't like to forgive, and so we just deal with it and we stuff it and we just end up bitter and angry and frustrated, and we talk to everyone else about how much we're frustrated with that person until they find out that we've been talking bad about them, and then now we're like, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. Not from experience, I'm just saying. Right, we need to make them a regular routine in our life. Look what Ephesians 4, verse 26 and 27 says. It says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. It says when we do not confess our sin, when we don't forgive, when we let the sun go down our anger, it says we're giving the devil a foothold. We're allowing the devil to have space in our life because our anger is going to eat us up. It says, don't let the sun go down while you're angry. That's hey, before I go to bed, I need to talk to this person. I need to confess. I need to ask forgiveness. So I want to wrap up and just talk about so what would this look like? We're talking about a good kind of weird. What would it look like for us to deal with people in our relationships? Instead of responding with anger, instead of responding with hatred, and instead of responding with murder, maybe not physically, but with our mouth and with our thoughts, what could we do differently? The next note is this: when we have conflict and we respond in grace, we point people to Jesus. When we have conflict and we respond in grace, we point people to Jesus. Do you notice in this passage, he says, if you're there offering your gift at the altar, and there you remember someone is upset with you, not you're upset with someone else. Right? Oh, I'm there and I'm upset with someone else. I need to go. I think that would be appropriate too. But he says, if you know someone else is upset with you, which means you've offended someone else. You hurt someone else's feelings. You said something that was rude. You said something that was, and you show up and you're there worshiping God, or you're there offering your gift at the altar. He says, there, go and do that. Right? When we respond in grace, when we have conflict, we respond in grace, we point people to Jesus. Right? This is such an unusual thing. When you have offended someone else, for you to actually go and say, hey, I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but this doesn't happen very often. Like, how often do you have someone come to you at work and say, hey, yesterday we were joking around, and I think I kind of went over the line. I said some things that were offensive toward you. If I offended you, I'm really sorry. Usually we just I'm not going to say, hey, unless they bring it up, I'm not going to bring it up. To actually go to someone and say, you know what? I think I hurt your feelings. I think I offended you. I think something I said was inappropriate. I acted in a wrong sort of way, and I'm really sorry. That is such an unusual thing. That is a weird behavior, but it's a good kind of weird. That's a refreshing thing that someone would come up and say, you know what? I just want to make sure we're okay. I know maybe I said something and maybe it seemed like maybe that offended you. If it did, I'm terribly sorry. Man, that's an incredible thing for us to be able to do. That we would be so concerned about maintaining relationships that we'd be okay to swallow our pride and say, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, you know what? That was my fault. You know what? I responded in anger. I said something rude. I was short with you. I was snippy. And I'm really sorry. Let me tell you, I don't know about you guys, but for me, this is one of the hardest things in the world. For me to admit I was wrong and to confess and say, you know what? I apologize. Just really transparent. That's really hard for me. I hate doing that. But God has grown me, being married and having two girls who are now teenagers and having to go and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the way that I responded. I'm sorry for what I said. Let me tell you, when you respond in this way, it's a good kind of weird, but also everyone already knows what you did. Right? Everyone already knows that you were wrong. Everyone already knows you were offensive. Everyone already knows, hey, you know what? You hurt my feelings. The way you responded was rude to me. If you're a parent, let me encourage you to make this a regular habit in your life. To be able to apologize to your kids, because you're going to be imperfect. You're going to be rude to your kids. You're going to say something rude. You're going to say something wrong. You're going to do something that's not right as a parent. And to be able to say, you know what? I don't need to be perfect. My kids already know I'm not perfect. They know I already messed up. Let me confess and say I'm sorry. When we take this sort of step, this is powerful. This is a different kind of thing than everyone else does. This is a good kind of weird, but it takes humility to be able to do that. And to be able to respond in grace. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. It says that it is to one's glory to overlook an offense, To respond in grace means, hey, when someone hurts your feelings, you don't need to bring it up every time. Like, there are times you need to, but to overlook an offense and say, you know what, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to guess, maybe they just had a bad day and they said something, they were short with me. Right? If we have to point out every single time that someone is rude to us, like, life gets really, difficult and complicated. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. And let me say this, the last way that this is really uniquely weird and different is especially for us as Christians. For us as Christians, when we live differently, John chapter 13, verse 34 and verse 35. I don't know if I gave you 35 up there, Jason, sorry. But when we as Christians act this way, people see Jesus in us. They see something different. It says this, right? Jesus is talking to his disciples, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. He's talking to the church. And he's saying, people in the world will know about me, and they will know you love me by the way you love each other, by the way that we love each other. Because in the church, the reality is you're going to be offended in the church. If you get in close proximity or relations with other people, you're going to be offended. If you have never been offended in church, you probably aren't connected enough. If you get connected, you get in a life group, you get in close relationships, you start spending time with people, someone's going to bother you, someone's going to irritate you, someone's going to offend you, someone's going to say something that's rude to you, and maybe they don't even intend to, but they're going to. It's just like being in a family. The more connected you get at church, someone's going to offend you at some point. And for us as Christians, it says people will know that we are Christians by the way that we love each other, the way that we forgive each other, the way that we respond when we're offended, the way we confess, the way we treat each other. People will look at us as a church and say, wow, there's something different about them. We're supposed to be those kind of people. I want to wrap up with this. Very last point is this. I must experience God's grace before I can give it away. And this is just the thing is for us to say, well, you know what, just do these things and stop being angry. Just don't murder people in your mind and in your heart and your mouth. Just don't do those things. Just stop being angry. Well, okay, we can sure try. But to truly experience God's grace, to truly be able to give it away, I need to experience it first. To be someone who doesn't respond in anger, it means that God needs to do something in my life where I need to understand God's love and his grace, the depth of his love, the depth of his forgiveness. I need to recognize and understand that I have offended God greatly. If I don't understand how greatly I've offended God, it's hard for me to forgive other people. Because I'm like, well, I don't need forgiveness. But once I understand, man, I am a broken person. I have offended God greatly. And I need God's grace. I need God's grace not only when I was 14 and I became a Christian, but I need God's grace today, almost 30 years later. I still need God's grace. And even after becoming a Christian, I have needed God's grace in my life. I have offended God in big ways since being 14. I need God's grace. And God, rather than responding in anger toward me, he's responded in love. He's responded in forgiveness. He's responded in grace. And not only does he say, well, I'm not going to hold that against you, but he continues to pour on blessings in my life. Right? He doesn't just say, well, okay, you know what, Sam, you've been bad, so, well, I'm going to, you know what, you're already saved, so you're in, but I'm not going to bless you. No, he's like, you know what, I'm just going to keep pouring blessings on you. You don't deserve it, but here you go. When I understand that kind of grace, that's what I've received from God, and I know what I deserve. It's only when I understand that my response in anger can be, you know what? God's been so good to me. I'm deserving of so much more than these people are. I'm going to let this one go. I'm going to respond in grace. I'm going to respond in forgiveness. Rather than getting angry about it, you know what? God, I'm going to give this to you. We need to experience God's grace before we can give it away. And so, I guess what I'd love to wrap up with is this. There may be some of you here today who are just saying, you know, I need more of God's grace in my life. I need to experience more of that. Yeah, I know Jesus. I love him. But man, my anger gets out of control. And I just need to understand and experience more of God's grace. There may be others of you who are saying, you know, I've never experienced God's grace in my life before. I've never given my life to God. I haven't experienced his forgiveness. And I would love to pray for both groups of you. If you're here and saying, you know what, I just need more of God's grace in my life, yeah, I'd love to pray for you. If you're saying, hey, I need God's grace for the first time. I need to give my life to Jesus. I need him to save me and transform me. I'd love to pray for you as well. So let me go ahead and pray for us. And if you're in either of those categories, I would love to take a moment. I'd love to pray for you. Let me pray. Jesus, I thank you that we can be here this morning. And we thank you for your scripture. We thank you for your word. We thank you that you love us so deeply, God, that even when we offend you, you don't respond in anger, but you've responded in grace and love. You've sent your son, Jesus. And you've poured out blessing upon blessing upon blessing on us. And so if there are some of you here today who are just saying, hey, look, I need more of God's grace in my life to be able to be more forgiving, more compassionate. If that's you today, if you just want to put your hand up, I'd love to pray for you. If you're saying, I need to be more forgiving, more compassionate, I need to experience more of God's grace. Okay. Let me pray for you. God, I do pray for those who are here this morning who just need to experience more of your grace, more of your compassion, more of your blessing in their life. Lord, I pray that they would experience just your love. They would know how much you love them, how much you care for them, how much you've given to them. That they would sense that and feel that and experience that when anger creeps in, that they'd be able to respond with your love and your grace. And God, we want to pray for those who maybe have never experienced your grace or your forgiveness, who have never given their life to you, but who would love to experience your grace. If you're here today, I'd love, if you just want to raise your hand, I'd love to pray for you if that's you. Okay. Okay, let me pray for you. Jesus, we thank you for this response, and we thank you for those who are here today who are saying, I want to give my life to you, Jesus. I want to experience your grace in my life. I want to experience your forgiveness. Would you do something new in this life today? Would you do something new here today? Being able to acknowledge and say, Jesus, you are in control and you are powerful. And Jesus, I give my life to you today. Do something new in these lives. May they experience your grace and your love and your peace. We pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, we're going to continue to worship and sing together. And we're also going to continue to worship through giving. As we experience God's grace, and he's been so rich and generous to us, one of the ways that we get to respond is through giving and giving back our tithes, our offerings, and not because we have to, but because we get to be able to demonstrate our love to Christ and say, God, thank you for all that you've done in my life. I'm going to give back to you. And so 3 ways we can give. You can give on the plate financially, but with money or checks, but also you can give online on our website or also on the app. And so I know some of you guys are like, well, I don't bring a check and I don't, or I just don't do any bills. I don't pay any checks ever. That's a great way to give as well. So let's continue to worship together through giving and through worship.
These pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty-handed but not forsaken. I've been set free, I've been set free. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Sing, you take our failure. You take our failure. You take our weakness. You set your treasure in jars of clay. You take this heart, Lord. I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. We're going to keep singing this song, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what this song means, the reason we sing it, and it's exactly the point Sam kind of made at the end of his message, and that's that without knowing the grace God has given us, it's impossible for us to really show grace to other people. Without knowing who we are at our worst and the ways we've wronged God and the ways we've wronged others, there's no way we can love others the way God loved us. There's just no way to do it because he loves us in spite of that grace. So we're going to continue to sing, you guys. We're going to sing Amazing Grace here in just a second. Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
Well, God bless you guys. We are so glad you were here this morning. We hope that you leave filled, experiencing God's grace, experiencing His love, experiencing His joy. Couple things before you leave. We're going to have prayer partners down front if you have anything you need prayer for. Also, don't forget to visit Ariel over at the Foster Hall. She'll be out right on the lobby as you exit. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week. We love you and are so blessed to have you here this morning.